first of your motion graphics lessons. We're going to have a number of these, and you will be doing them all. They'll all count. And then at the end, you'll take all the stuff that you learned on all the individual practice projects and combine them into an overall design. Kind of like you see here, where you have at least 5 or 6 things animating. This one has 4 objects animating plus the camera. So that would be my 5 objects, okay? But you'll see what I mean as we get into it. So this will be the first of them. If you're wondering, like, what is motion graphics? Anytime you see animation in a movie or video game or a television commercial or TV, or before a movie starts when they're showing the production company, or like like when the Super Bowl plays and they have all that animated stuff, all those things are motion graphics. Especially, it's basically animated graphic design. Inside of Iron Man's helmet, what he's seeing when Tony Stark they kind of show the inside of his helmet, particle effects, all kinds of stuff. It's all motion graphics, okay, and it's all part of graphic design, but it's the animated version of it. So if a graphic designer and animator had a baby, that would be a motion graphics artist. There's a lot of opportunity for it in California because all the studios are here, all the gaming studios are here, all the post-production houses for television making commercials and TV and stuff are here. So it's a good thing to learn, and you don't have to know how to draw. Basically, you can still be an animator. So the first one we're going to do is going to be a linear. Oops, let's turn this down. Okay, so the first one that we're going to do, sorry about that, I didn't mean to blast you to bits, is going to be a linear motion graphics project, okay? So when we start with this, we go up to what is called MoGraph up here in the menu bar, and we use one of these things. We'll start with a cloner today, and we'll learn a couple of these other ones, and then you apply effectors to them, and you can apply multiple effectors to multiple things. And so we're going to practice a bunch of those. So to get started today, I'm going to take a cube, and we'll use a lot of abstract basic shapes for these projects. I'm going to take this cube and I'm going to make it sort of a bar shaped, and I'm going to fillet it, which will soften the edges and make it look good, which you can do over here. In the attributes, fillet radius right there, fillet. And that is something you should do to most of your basic shapes. I'm going to lift it off the floor. I'm going to convert it like I showed you with the tool to turn it into a polygon advanced cube. And I'm going to move its axes like I showed you how to do to the bottom of the object. That way, when it beats to the music, it'll beat from the bottom up, okay? In one direction. So how do we do this? Well, we apply a cloner, and we put the object in the cloner, and then we tell the cloner what kind of clone do we want. And you have a number of clones up here. The first one we're going to do is linear. Next one we'll do is grid. We'll do radial. We'll do all of these objects. So we're going to do linear. That's just what it sounds like. It goes in one direction. You decide how many clones you want, and then you decide what direction you want to clone them in. Right now they're going up and down, so I'm going to zero that out and tell them to go left and right like 40 centimeters. Okay, and then you can basically fool around with the spacing there however you want them. You can do piano key type of thing. Don't worry about colors and stuff right now. We're just going to be focusing on the animation and so forth. So that's about it right now. The rest of the stuff we'll kind of cover as we go, but that is the basics of a cloner. It can be really good not just for motion graphics, but if you wanted to make copies of other things in your design, using a cloner is a really powerful tool. Now we're going to apply our first effector to the cloner. To apply an effector, you go to MoGraph effector, and while the cloner is selected, you go get the one you want to try. The first one you're going to learn is sound. Now, if you ever want to, you can apply multiple effectors to your clones. So if you ever are wondering what is applying to my cloner, how many have I put on it, did I do the Did I even put the one on it that I think I did? You can go to the cloner here and select it, and there is a button that says effectors, and it'll show you which effectors are being applied. You can delete them from here, and you can reapply them by just dragging them in there. If your cloner was not selected when you went to get the effector, it will not apply to the cloner. So you'd have to drag it in manually and drop it. So it's pretty easy to screw around with and kind of get it to do what you want. All right, now on the effector, for the sound effector, what we do is we go and we load in a sound from this button right here. This is where you're gonna have to go get your own music. You're gonna have to like find your own WAV files or MP3s. You could go to freestockmusic.com. Oops, I didn't put in music. Music.com, and you can search by genre. So we can go down to like electronica and hit search, and then it'll find a song. And then you can download it. Stuff that doesn't have, it's all instrumental and ambient works best, or has good beats, you know, like dance music and stuff. But things that have like really harsh lyrics and screaming and too heavy metal doesn't work out as very well to animate to usually. So it's up to you. If you don't want to use one of the free stockmusic.coms, you'll have to find your own music and be a teenager and, you know, figure that out. There's things that let you take stuff off YouTube's, and you guys will figure it out how to get your own music in here. But you're responsible for your music. All right, anyways, so on the sound effector, you click on that button, load sound, and you go get whatever sound it is that you're going to play around with. Let's see, what am I going to use here? John Wick. All right. So now I can just go ahead and hit play, and it's doing something. Number one, my movie's not long enough, so I have to add in frames that allow me to play the whole song. I don't know what that's going to be, so you'll have to guesstimate that. You'll have to listen to it and see where the song ends. So obviously mine's longer, and you might want to like cut it off at a certain range if it's too long, so just figure out where to cut it off. And just add that many frames, so like a good area to pause, or if you want to encompass all the entire song, it's up to you. All right, anyways, let's turn that off. So the way that you can isolate beats of the music is, number one, on the effectors, you have what are called parameters, and basically it's position, scale, and rotation, and that's how we can animate it. Right now it's on position, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to put it on scale, and I want to scale it up to like maybe 1 times its size on the y-axis. So you're going to do scale. Well, you're not going to do, you can experiment later with rotation and position if you want, but let's just do scale on the y-axis only. If one effector is doing scale, you can't have other effectors doing scale. They have to do something else like position or rotation, or they'll compete with each other. So now it's beating up and down. If I want to isolate the music better, then I can take these graphs, this amplitude graph, and I can move this probe here, as it's called, to only get like certain beats of the music. And that can be adjusted down here with the manually by number, and I can tell it under sampling here to go just by step, and it will start beating the individual objects. If I leave it on peak, then I can basically just go ahead and add probes to this and get it to just affect a couple of things. You can deselect the probes and move them around. If a probe is selected and you add another probe, it'll kind of make it a sub-probe to the other probe. And this is how we isolate the low tones, the high pitches, the beats, the bass, that kind of stuff. So you're just, what do you want to do with yours today? Just have fun with it. Just experiment. I can, if I want to get rid of probes and they're like in the way, then I just go remove probe. And put it on step so it'll get all of the things. If I want it to be a little bit more extreme, I can move the probe up here so it kind of like will focus on the beats a little bit more, and you can see the animation changes. Anyways, it's a super fun thing to do with motion graphics. You're gonna clone a cube. It's all under MoGraph right here. So there's your cloner. You're gonna clone a cube that you remember to give a fillet to so that it's smooth. Convert it with the conversion tool to a polygon cube. Remember, there's only basic and advanced shapes. It's now an advanced cube, not a basic cube anymore. And then you're gonna move its axes to the bottom so that when you scale it, it'll beat upwards like a sound bar and not like go from both ends. If it's going from both ends, you forgot to move the axes. And then you go to your cloner, select it, go to MoGraph and select a sound effector. Go to your sound effector, load in a song. Go to parameters and tell it to scale and not position, and scale it only on the y-axis for now. And then under effector, if you want to go down to where the probe properties are, you have to unroll them. And then in there you can fool around a little bit more with the sampling. You can have it die off with a decay so it doesn't, you can see it's much slower, which is kind of neat sometimes when I play with the decay. So you have this strength, you can make it a way more extreme or a little bit more subtle. Have some decay on it. Sometimes you'll get an echo or an overlap or a lag. It's best to stop it usually, go back to where you started and then play it, because it's got to calculate all this stuff. Anyways, I'll put this on YouTube, and tomorrow we'll do a new one, and the next day, and I'll put them all on YouTube, and you can go watch them at your leisure or get a review whenever you need them. All right, and I'll talk more about the project in class.